Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review, but this time I'm going to continue with my Star Trek movie reviews and discuss the Next Generation movie films, because I just did my videos for the original Star Trek movies, the original 6. Now I'm going to be discussing the Next Generation films, which I feel were terrible. So I'm going to try to squeeze all 4 in this one video because I think they're all lousy. The first one came out in 1994, November 1994, called Star Trek Generations. And this was the movie that passed the torch from the original series to the Next Generation series. And I think the reason, one reason why I think that these movies, the Next Generation movies, didn't do so well, wasn't as good as the original movie series with the original crew, because of the fact that the Next Generation show was very popular and lasted for 7 years, but the television show ended in May 1994, and 6 months later you had the first movie. So you didn't have, let's say, 10 years, a 10-year ending between the television show and the movies, like you had with the original series. You had like 6 months between when the last episode aired and when the first movie came out. So you didn't really have that gap, because as soon as the television series stopped filming, they went into making the movies, or the movie started filming like the year before, in 93. Because it usually takes like about a year. So they were still filming the television show as they were filming the first movie, The Next Generation crew. Well, the first one was called Star Trek Generations, like I said, came out in November 94. And the villain in this one was Malcolm McDowell, and he was a good villain. And he was known to be as the guy who killed Captain Kirk. He dies at the end of this one. And the reason why Captain Kirk was even brought in, because in the beginning of the film, the beginning sequence, was you had the introduction of the Enterprise B. And they brought in a couple of members of the last Enterprise crew onto this one. You had Captain Kirk, you had Chekhov, and you had Scotty. For this one. And they passed through this barrier and went into what was called the Nexus. The Nexus was coming through this barrier, and Malcolm McDowell's character tried to get back into the Nexus for some reason. And one of the other passengers was Whoopi Goldberg, who played Guinan in the Next Generation series, and she made an appearance in this movie and the last movie that the Next Generation made. And for some reason Captain Kirk gets lost. There's a big hole in the Enterprise B, and he got sucked in, and Kirk got sucked into it and went into the Nexus. Because you don't see him again at the end of the film. And then you switch to the Next Generation, like 80 years later, you see the Next Generation crew. And then they try to figure that, what's going on with the Nexus. And try to find out, the whole thing with Malcolm McDowell. And Picard gets sucked into the Nexus as well, and the Enterprise D gets destroyed. In the very first movie, the Enterprise D gets destroyed. At least in the original series, they waited to the third movie to destroy the Enterprise. This one was the first Next Generation movie, the Enterprise gets destroyed, and they used bringing the same special effect shots they did for that one. And Picard and Kirk escaped from the Nexus. And then they went and they stopped Malcolm McDowell from doing what he was going to be doing. And during the fight, his gurney thing fell and landed on Kirk and crushed Kirk to death, and he dies. So you had a little funeral thing for Kirk, and that's pretty much how the movie ended for that one. And then another movie didn't happen like 2 years later, which was called Star Trek. It was called Star Trek First Contact. And this time, like in Star Trek 2, when they brought a villain from the original series into the movie series, they did the same thing in this second film. It was directed by Jonathan Frakes, who played, of course, Riker. Directed this one, and they brought in the Borg, and of course they brought in the Borg Krieg, played by Alice Krieg. I think she reprised the role in the Star Trek Voyager series, and they went back in time. They followed the Borg, and they went back in time to, I think, like 21st century Earth, when Zefram Cochrane, and he was introduced in an episode of the original television series, invents the warp speed engine, and made first contact with an alien race, which of course turned out to be the Klingons. And I thought it was a good entry, because they brought in the villains and made the Borg even scarier than they were in the series. They were scary in the series, but now they made it even scarier. But I thought it was which was a good, decent entry, better entry than the last one. The only decent one of the whole 4 series the Next Generation did. And then, of course, that movie did pretty well. Pretty good write-ups. And 2 years later, in 1998, they came up with the third movie with the Next Generation, called Star Trek Insurrection. Also directed again by Jonathan Frakes. This movie was not as good. I mean, I don't remember I saw it like once. When it came out like a month later. It was only maybe like 4 people in the whole movie theater. So within a month, this is going to last very long. And like 2 weeks later, it was pulled from the movie theaters, because it wasn't that good. It wasn't that great for plot. It was crap. That one was like definitely the worst one. The most forgettable one of the whole Star Trek movie series. And then the next one, which was the last one of the whole Star Trek movie series until the reboot in 2009. And that was called Star Trek Nemesis. And I do have the DVD of that, but I don't have it here with me. And they did like a cloning thing. They brought in the Romulans. This one, the Romulans wanted to have like a peace treaty with the Federation, and they had a guy who actually was a human clone of Captain Picard, and they brought him in, and he was first meet Picard, and then all of a sudden was destroying the Federation, which I thought was like such a crazy movie, because it kind of went all over the place, like almost one action sequence after another. And this one was directed by Stuart Baird, the last one. And this movie does take place 15 years after the start of the Next Generation series. And this one, Data dies at the end of this one. And of course, this one starts off, which was the thing that ticked off a lot of Next Generation fans, was the fact that Riker and Troy, which he knew they were lovers before the series, even the Next Generation series even started. This time, 15 years, they finally got married, and you see Marina Sirtis, who played Troy, in this beautiful wedding gown. And you actually saw a little cleavage, which of course only Star Trek fans were getting excited with Troy. And what they did was, they didn't show the wedding, which ticked a lot of Star Trek fans off. And the wedding scene was not shown. Thus the reception, and with Picard giving a toast to Riker and Troy. And that time Riker decides to finally, after 15 years, finally accept the promotion to captain, and deciding to have his own ship. So of course, in the end of the movie, he formally transfers at the end of the movie, and leaves, and Troy goes with him. And of course, Dana dies. But in the course of the movie, you have Data found a clone of himself, which was used by Simazon, who was the name of the villain in this movie, played by I think Tom Hardy. And they used this to get information from the Federation, so they could destroy the whole Federation. But of course it didn't happen because the ship was destroyed instead. Spoiler. But the 4 Star Trek movies that starred the Next Generation are pretty much forgettable. They were not that great movies. I went to see every single one. But the 4 of them, let's tell you how thrilled I am with those 4 movies. One of the 4 I have in my video/DVD collection, and that's Star Trek Nemesis. That's it. Because that's how bad 4 movies were. I felt they're very disappointing films. The reason why is because I felt the Next Generation crew didn't have, all good actors, nothing but good actors, but they didn't have the chemistry, the on-screen chemistry that the original cast had. There was no humor. There was not that much humor. They're all too serious. They're all, stiff like this, and walk around like this. Yes, Captain. Get on, my Captain, and do all this stuff, which was, after a while, I don't know, because they're all like this. They're still like this. Not only the Next Generation series, but Deep Space Nine and the Star Trek Voyage, they're all, had all the chests out. Even the guys in those 4 shows had the chests out like this, and it was boring as hell. Those movies, they were not that. To me, they were not that great. Even the one that got the decent write-ups, Star Trek First Contact, even that one wasn't that thrilling. So pretty much, particularly the last 2 Star Trek films, of the Next Generation, movies pretty much killed the movie franchise for Star Trek. Until, of course, 7 years later, when you had J.J. Abrams' movie, which we're probably going to be discussing in a separate video. So, thank you for watching these videos for Star Trek movies, and please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and please comment, and catch you next time.